Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Sked and I am joined by James Kearney as we look ahead to Heart of Midlothian returning to Premiership business as they host Motherwell at Tynecastle Park on Saturday afternoon, as well as previewing the game against the Steelmen. We'll be also looking at some of the news and reports in the last couple of days, everything from Craig Halkett update that Stephen Naismith gave today around how the scan that he received on his knee, to reports that Kiyosuke Tagawa has been watched by teams in Portugal and Japan, and also a bit about Greenock Morton tie that's been moved to the Monday night, and also VAR, our favourite subject. But try to avoid it, but I think it's worth bringing that up just because in the latest independent panel it found that there was 4 mistakes involving Hearts, 3 of which went against Stephen Naismith's men. So yeah, we'll get to that at the end and just pan the Scottish referee establishment to do that. But no, we will start off with the preview of the Motherwell game. Where to start? We'll come on to talk about Motherwell and what the kind of threat they pose. I've watched them a couple of times recently, but let's start with the lineup. Just been reading your predicted lineup, James. Similar to mine. Couple of disagreements in a couple of positions, but I think we're both in agreement that the 4-3-3 is going to be the kind of go-to formation, certainly for the time being.
I would think so, yeah, just because of the way the team are playing at the moment. It's difficult to see why you would change that. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and it's certainly not broke at the moment. Things are going really well. I guess my concern was always going to be that when you move away from the back three, that maybe the goals start, defence isn't quite as solid. Maybe Hearts concede a bit more, and I think that has been happening, to be fair. But I think when you then the flip side of it, you look at how much more effective Hearts have been getting forward this season with the back four. It makes a lot of sense, just because we know that's been one of the big areas of concern among supporters this season, has been getting forward, actually attacking and making the most of your opportunities, finding ways to get past well-drilled opposition. And we've started to see that over the last few weeks. I don't think we're likely to see any change from that. So I think that, yeah, I'd imagine it's probably going to be the back four. But I mean, as I'm sure we're about to talk about, it does mean that you're going to end up dropping one defender at least who's in very good form. You can't get around it. There's only so many. We kind of touched on this the other day in the other day's episode. But there's only 4 spots going, and particularly look at centre half and left back. There's only a handful of players. Someone very good is going to miss out. It's going to be harsh on them.
Yeah, I think that you're looking at it, and Halkett's injury, which we'll come on to talk about, makes Naismith's life a wee bit easier in terms of picking the starting 11. But yeah, like you said, the big one, I think Frankie Kent will start. He has started every single game this season except from the game against the Arjonians. And the only other game he did not complete the full 90 minutes, which I hadn't realised, was the Partick Thistle game. I thought he played every single minute of the season so far up until Sunday, but that wasn't the case. He played 75 minutes against Thistle in the League Cup. He'll come back in. I think he's the kind of stalwart of the back line, the leader of the back line. And then it's building around there, because you can make an argument for a number of positions, but I think it's safe to say that Alex Cochrane is, I think, another cert, you would imagine, for the left back position. Again, he's the best left back in the club. The only way I can't see him starting a left back, if for some reason Naismith started them in the centre of the pitch, which would be a slight surprise just because the option's in there, but we know he can play there. But those are the two, and then it's a case of either Rills or Kingsley or Atkinson or Lembakisa at right back and the left centre back.
Exactly. So I think I had Cochrane down at left back. To be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if at some point in the next run of games Cochrane is rested entirely, and just to give him a rest, because he has played an awful lot of football.
You have to. Game. Yeah, you have to do it against Motherwell, because next up is Rangers, then Hibs, then Celtic. So if you're going to give him a rest, then if Motherwell was the game to do it.
Aye, so yeah, it might well be. Okay, now I'm kind of doubting my own predicted lineup now, but I'll stick with Cochrane just because he has been brilliant. He's been in such fantastic form at the moment. I think even when Kingsley's left back, I don't think he gives you quite as much going forward as much as Cochrane does. And then Cochrane's, he's got balance of his set piece deliveries as well, which are pretty good. They're obviously Kingsley's good for the direct free kicks, but Cochrane's been hitting corners and stuff like that, and they've been pretty decent. So I'd expect him to start. So then, like you say, you're kind of stuck between: is it going to be you've got one gap at centre half and one gap at right back, and you've got 4 excellent players to fill them. I think the Aussies will probably come back in for this one. I think we'll see Rose and Atkinson get the nod. Obviously, they both came on against Airdrie the weekend there. Rose was a first half substitute to replace Halkett, and then Atkinson came on during the second half for Lembikisa, didn't he? So I think that I think it'll just be a case of, obviously they've been away, they've been playing and they've been training, but I think it's just important to get them back into the and get some more minutes back within the team, just to kind of help that kind of bring back that cohesion to it, and again just kind of get their minutes up as well. So I think we'll probably see the Aussies come back for this one, but I know you feel differently about that, don't you?
Yeah, I just think I was swithering about Lembikisa and Atkinson the most probably, but I think Lembikisa will start just because I just think he's more attacking. He adds more pace to the team, and you're going to have a lot of the ball. So I think you see maybe Atkinson come in against Rangers at Ibrox next week, whereas I think Lembikisa, this is a game that probably suits him a bit more. I know he was a bit erratic against Airdrie, but I think you can get his qualities are more suited to playing against Motherwell than going to Ibrox, for example.
Yeah.
I feel so. That's why I went for Lembikisa. As for the other centre back, I just think Stephen Kingsley and Frankie Kent have built up a really good partnership as a pairing. Kent and Rills had done that. Sorry, Rills had his moments in a back four. I do think with the team now, the confidence both for him individually and collectively, I think he'll fit back into a back four without any problems. Even if I do think he's more suited to playing in a back three, but I think he'll stick with Kingsley for just now, just because how well and how consistent Kingsley's been. He's excellent in the air as well. Moving forward, I think we agreed everything, kind of midfield three off Benny, Callum Newhoff and Scott Fraser, who would come in for George Grant. I think we both mentioned that between now and the end of the season, I think it's going to be a case of maybe not one starts one week and the other starts the next week, but there's going to be a case where Fraser and Grant will interchange.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be similar to the first half of the season with the way we saw Lowry and Grant swapped around often from game to game. Sometimes they get a couple of games, but it wasn't as if one of them was getting 5, 6, 7 starts in a row and then the other guy was just trying to take his chance. So I think that's probably what it will be again. Like I say, I was kind of swithering on this one. I wasn't entirely sure, but I've went for Fraser just because, again, I think Naismith will be really keen to get minutes in him. Obviously at Charlton, he didn't get as much football or as much game time as he would have liked. And of course, he got an assist as well for Shanklin for the fourth goal against Airdrie. So I think a first starting league will be a fair and just reward for his output that day. So I think we'll probably see Fraser come back into the squad again. I doubt whether it's Fraser or Grant. I doubt either will play the full 90. I think that again, just because Fraser needs minutes, then it's like, so I think even if Grant does start, you might end up seeing Fraser come on for the last half hour or so, or something like that, or vice versa. So I think we're likely to see that. Neuhoff, based on his form over the last few weeks, you have to have him in. I think he's been absolutely excellent so far, and Biddingame as well seems like pretty nailed on. So yeah, I think there's the only real room for doubt there's probably between Grant or Fraser. Obviously, they're quite like for like, but I would suspect Fraser probably get the nod for this one. And then obviously looking ahead to the attack, and I mean at this point it picks itself, right? I mean that front three, there's surely only 3 options there at present.
So I mean, I kind of wrote about this in my predicted 11, predicted lineup. This piece that's gone up on the site, and Naismith has always looked to change at least one player in his front three or the attacking final third. However, it's something he said about Alan Forrest a couple of weeks kind of stuck with me. Was he goes, it's almost like you have to balance it, and knowing when guys are in a really good moment, and you play them and they play through the fatigue, and because of the confidence, it kind of overrides the fatigue, and they make these good decisions in the final third. They beat their man, and I just think all 3 of Forrest, Vargas, and Shanklin are in a really good moment. Vargas would probably be the one most likely to come out because he got taken off at half-time against Adrian, and I think there might be a groin complaint, but he's trained this week, or certainly trained today. And Oda, of course, is the other one, the other possible option, having missed the game against Airdrie, only due to a concussion, which Kiyosuke Tagawa has. So he'll miss the game tomorrow. It won't be in the squad. And then you look at the other options. There's not many in the way of final third options. I think you've really only got Oda aside from those front three. So yeah, I think those three pick themselves, and I would be very surprised if they don't start.
Exactly. So I mean, you look at it, it's like, yeah, obviously Boyce injured, Tagawa injured, Mackay injured.
Yeah.
There's not much room. Like maybe you could push Scott Fraser out to the left wing at a push, but he's not a pacey player. But then again, it's probably not really a game where pace is going to be all that important. So maybe we do see that. But yeah, I would imagine. I think based on current form, you've got to play those three. I've just noticed as well that we missed out a position at the back. Are we both going for Xander Clark and goals? Yeah.
I think we
decided. Yeah, it's just going to be Clark for the league, Gordon for the cup. Is that what we're thinking?
Currently, that's what I assume. Just going by the evidence of the last month or so, I think it's pretty clear that Clark is certainly the number one goalkeeper, the regular league goalkeeper. So yeah, I think that's how we see Hearts lining up in terms of what we expect. I think it's similar to St Johnstone, where it's been like kind of almost like three different games against St Johnstone this season, just because of circumstance. And I think it's the case against Motherwell this season, because you look back at the first meeting, that's when Motherwell were really, really good, and they looked like they were really thriving under Kettlewell. And then you get to the away game where Hearts are in a bit of difficulty, and it's talk of must-win game. Hearts put one of their best performances up until that point of the season, and now now you get to the point where Motherwell are a really curious team. So we all know how well Hearts have been doing. Motherwell are a really curious team. I mean, they've only lost 2 of their last 11, but they've had loads of draws. Within that, they've lost to Martin in the Cup, and then I watched them against Aberdeen midweek, where they were 3-0 up after 25 minutes or within.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah, before Aberdeen made the double change, and they ended up losing 3 goals and drawing 3-3. I think they've got some good talent in their side, but the mentality of Motherwell, as soon as they lost that first goal, you just knew they were not getting away with 3 points at Pittodrie, which is never a great situation to be in as a team collective. There's a lot of jitters. Liam Kelly has, I think, just had a difficult moment this season. Don't think he was all that great last season. Their big one, however, is the biggest transformation is Theo Bayer, who is, I think, he's a third dot goal scorer in the league now. Just kind of out of nowhere score goals and good movement. I think they're playing to his strengths a bit more. They play in a 3-5-2, so I do think they will cause problems in the final third, but equally their defence individually and collectively is not the best.
Yeah, that's the thing that really stood out to me. So I didn't watch the game on Wednesday, but I just watched the highlights earlier today before coming on, and so that was the thing that really struck me for Aberdeen's goals. It was like some of them defending from Motherwell was really poor. Just like really basic things, like somebody's driving into the box, just nobody really putting pressure on them, or not really sticking a foot in, or making challenges. So I think defensively they're maybe a wee bit passive. I thought they were kind of sitting off Aberdeen a bit, and like you say, kind of inviting pressure, inviting chances. And I think when you look through the goals that they did concede, none of them were particularly great viewing from a Motherwell perspective. So I think that from that side of things, yeah, like defensively they've definitely been a bit ropey. But the upside of that, of course, is that at the other end of the park they've got Theo Bayer, who's, I know this is a Hearts podcast, but if we're looking at just the last 6 games, he's probably, you need to argue, he's the most informed striker in the league, I think, because he's got 8 goals in 6 games, which is pretty remarkable. He's certainly in the conversation anyway, So I mean, yeah, and also just compared to the player that we saw at St Johnstone last season, don't know where that came from at all. It's great to see him kicking on, good for him, but yeah, wild. So he's obviously a big goal threat. Blair Spittle as well, having an excellent season. He's another player I've seen a lot of, obviously. As a former Partick Thistle player, I've seen a lot of him. He's always had that prowess from set pieces. He's dangerous from distance as well. I mean, that goal he scored against was at County, goal of the season contender from about 30 odd yards out, just curled it straight into the top corner. So I think it's going to be really important for the likes of Benny, for instance, at number 6, having to make sure he's closing down the likes of Spittle if he does get the ball like 30 yards out, because he will have a pop. And if you look at his highlights from this season, they'll tell you that if he has a pop, it's a decent chance it might go in. So he's one of the great kind of like long distance shooters in the league. So I think he's a player that has to be stifled. I think that's really important. So I think it does all kind of point to a really interesting game, because like you say, it's different to the game at Fir Park. And you'd like to hope it's very different to the game at Tynecastle earlier in the season, where right now Hearts are flying. Motherwell, like you say, they've not quite turned a corner, but obviously results have improved, and like you say, and then they're getting goals as well, which is the really big thing. So yeah, it's going to be tricky. It's maybe one of those ones where it might sound daft, because obviously all goals are important, but I really do feel that like if Hearts can get an early goal, and I think from that, I think if Hearts go ahead, I think they'll see out. I think they'll get the win, but it's only if Motherwell can get ahead. We know that they can make life really difficult for you. We know what they play like and how Kettlewell will set up his team. So I think
I would actually say so. Yeah, I think I agree with the first point, and it's something that Ben says, and Ben Odlin in the YouTube comments, is that if you take the lead all 3 points, because Motherwell have like limited game plans, and also on the flip side, where I think if Motherwell took the lead, I wouldn't be as stressed as it was earlier on in the season. We've seen Hearts come back from losing positions recently, and there shouldn't be panic setting. But also makes a really good point in that I felt this as well, that Motherwell, when they went 3-0 up against Aberdeen on Wednesday, as Ben says, they seem to have a "what do we do now" attitude. And it's compared it to our performance against Aberdeen at Pittodrie earlier in the season. And that's what I felt. I felt it was almost like Aberdeen were waiting to go 3-0 down before reacting. And then the flip side, it was almost as if Motherwell were waiting for Aberdeen to get it back to 3-3 before reacting and going, okay, we need to at least get a result out of this. So yeah, it was curious. And you look at some of the stats, and Craig 2702's put them in the comments that Motherwell have scored more goals than Hearts this season in the league, but on the flip side, they've conceded 17 more. So that's where I think there should be encouragement that if we do go behind, it's not the end of the world. However, like you said, if Hearts can get an early goal, I think you're looking at could be a really confident and enjoyable afternoon at Tynecastle.
You would hope so, but then that's why I kind of look at this one and go like, everything seems to be pointing towards a Hearts win. So sure, it's going to end up like 1-0 Motherwell or something, right? Because that's the way these things go, and everyone's like, oh yeah, it'll be fine. So no, I think it will be it'll be a fun game, and I'm looking forward to it. As I say, I do think if Hearts can just get that area goal and settle things down, it could, like you say, it could make for a very enjoyable afternoon. But I think that, I think that even though the Motherwell did chuck that 3-goal lead in spectacular fashion at Aberdeen the other night, I still think that they've got something about them. They've kind of got a bit of fight and grit about them, and that always kind of worries me if I'm the home team and I'm expected to win. I don't really want to play in teams like that. Whereas if they get an early goal and they are doing what they're meant to be doing for the afternoon, then they can make life difficult for you, as we saw back in was it September? August,
yeah, I think so.
Right to the start of the season anyway. So we know on their day what they can do, because they were worthy winners that day as well against back then. So we shall see.
Yeah, as Craig says in the chat, James, don't jinx it.
I'll talk about it.
And Ben says Hearts are due a really dominant performance where we win by 4 goals. I think it is coming. I think over the last few weeks we've seen a bit more of that attacking impetus. And another question in the chat was Danny Howe asking, can Andy Halliday start? No, because he is on loan. So he can't play at all because he is on loan at Motherwell, and he'll only be a permanent in the summer. So before we move on, score predictions, James, what have you got for me?
I'll go for a 2-0, I think.
All that chat.
That's my head says 2-0. But that's often when things get hairy when I start thinking too much about it. So yeah, I'll stick with 2-0, and that's it.
I'm going to go for 3-1 Hearts. I think it'll be both teams score and an enjoyable game encounter afternoon at Tynecastle. So we'll move on to chat to different things that have been happening. So we'll talk about Craig Halkett, because good news is that he went for a scan on his knee after, I believe, after being taken off midway through the first half against Airdrieonians, and you kind of feared the worst, just because this was a player who's been out for a long time and came back and picked up. You're kind of just concerned just with, because he went down and then signalled straight away to the bench, you just kind of worried about what the prognosis was. However, Stephen Naismith's told Hearts TV, initial reports back off the scan are good. This is part and parcel of having a long-term injury and coming back and getting a niggle. You're asking your body to come from one extreme of doing nothing after an operation to getting back to an elite level. It happens. And probably the most encouraging thing he said was, between now and the end of the season, it's about getting minutes for Craig and get him on the training pitch consistently, which suggests to me that it's not anywhere near a long-term injury. It'll just be kind of the short-term before he's back, and then he won't be, because we've got options there, like we talked about in defence, there's not that need for him to play every single week or start every single week.
Exactly, that's it. Naismith is definitely in a position where he can manage his game time without weakening the side in any way, or by having to chuck in maybe somebody from the B team who's not quite ready or whatever it is. Like you said, there's plenty of options there, so that's fine. Certainly we still need to see, I think, because I'm not 100% sure the way this whole process works, but I think that now he's got the scan results. I think the way it works is he then goes along to a specialist, and then the specialist says, all right, here's what we're doing to fix it. Right. Here's the prognosis. So there's still that bit to come, so we don't know yet. I'm not a doctor. I can tell you what the plan is. But what I would say is that certainly today at Oriam, we saw Halkett. He was walking around. He wasn't on crutches or in a moon boot or anything like that. Yep. He was smiling. He looked happy. So I would assume that it's nothing too serious. I think again, we can never say until you actually get the final diagnosis and all that kind of stuff. But for now, it's certainly everything would seem to suggest it's nothing to be worried about, which is good. And like you say, I mean, I need to watch what I can say, because I know obviously some of this stuff's embargoed, so I need to make sure I'm not breaking any embargoes here. But certainly, like you say, the plan seems to be, the focus for Naismith from between now and the end of the season for Halkett seems to be on just getting minutes, staying fit, and then making sure he's heading into pre-season in good shape, so that by the time next season starts around, he's really back at the 100% full fitness.
Yeah, he said that on, he said similar on Hearts TV, in that there's an understanding. I think he said, there's an understanding at the club that from everybody that you won't see the best of Craig Halkett until next season, after a full pre-season, hopefully after getting minutes this season. So yeah, that's encouraging. We'll move on to quickly talk about Keisuke Tagawa. We've talked about him quite a bit recently, so we won't spend too long on him, but just even news reported earlier on in the week that he's been watched by clubs in Portugal and Japan. Now, he's played in both countries, and the Japanese transfer market, just because of the way their season works, I think it's open until sometime in March, potentially.
It's towards the end of March, yeah.
Towards the end of March. Now, he won't be playing and won't be available at the weekend because he picked up, he sustained concussion or a bang to the head this week, so they have to go through the concussion protocol. All signs point to maybe a parting of ways at the end of the season. Firstly, I should say, when we did the podcast during the week, I was talking about Tagawa on a 4-year deal. Like, he actually, for some reason, I had in my head that he signed a 4-year deal. It's only a 3-year deal. So I had to double check that, and it was, a 3-year deal. So that was me that got that wrong. But the just reading between the lines, it could be a part of the ways. However, I would be reluctant to let him leave to go to Japan before that, between now and that March deadline, just because of how limited our options are in the final third, like we've spoken about, because of Boyce and Mackay's injury. And I think maybe it relies on how well Boyce comes back from his injury.
That's definitely a factor. Another factor as well is probably how James Wilson gets on. As well, I would imagine. But certainly right now, we know that Boyce is still a wee while away. And his injury record this season would suggest you can't really rely on him.
And last season,
in order to be available and be available for selection. So I do think that Tagawa, I'd be very surprised if he left over the next month or so before the Japanese window shuts, just purely on the basis of bodies. Hearts don't have a lot of them at the moment, particularly up front. We just spoke about that, the fact that with Boyce and Tagawa out injured, you've only really got Shanklin, and that's it. And again, think if Shanklin, heaven forbid, picked up an injury, you'd be left with, it'd probably be Vargas. And don't get me wrong, Vargas is a good player. He's doing well recently, but it's a lot to ask of a guy who's he's not long in the door, coming from another side of the world, still trying to adapt. And now it's going, okay, now you have to be the primary source of goals in this team. It needs to go through you. That's a lot to ask of a guy. So I think that, I would be very surprised if Tagawa left just because of between Boyce's injury records and just this kind of makeup of the squad. There's not that many players that can play there. The only exception I could see would be if someone for instance, like Wilson kicks on in the academy, maybe makes a name for himself to the point where Naismith goes, actually, if it's between Tagawa or Wilson, I'm going to play Wilson. We saw him come on. It was the Spartans game he came on, wasn't it? He in fact replaced Tagawa. So he has got, Naismith clearly feels he is on the cusp of first team football. But again, it's that thing of, well, if Shanklin gets injured, what you're going to chuck an 18-year-old up top? You need to be like, all right, good luck.
Younger, 16.
16, geez.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's an awful lot to ask. So I would imagine that Tagawa, for all his faults at present, I think he will be sticking around for the time being.
Yeah, absolutely. And Naismith kind of spoke about it on the broadcast presser, which was on Hearts TV, and he said that he's not heard anything regarding any transfer news. But it was still worthwhile talking about. James, we'll move on to the Scottish Cup. Morton, Monday night, 7:45 kickoff. Not ideal, is it?
No, it's not. Because I was thinking about it earlier, so if you're coming from Edinburgh, you'll need to get a train to Glasgow and a train from, if you're getting public transport, for instance, for that. So that's not going to be great. It's a fun ground to go to, though. At least it's quite, it's got the crane in the background and all that. It's got the whole bit behind one of the goals. That's good fun. One thing, a quick PSA for Hearts fans. I don't know the last time you guys were at Capello. It was probably been a few years, mind, but just bear in mind, there's no cash machine nearby. There's no cash machine nearby, and everything nearby. There's only one pub nearby. It takes cash only. If you're going, make sure you lift some cash before you go, because otherwise you're going to be absolutely. I've been stranded myself once or twice outside Capello, thinking I've got half an hour or so to wait on a train, thinking, I'll just go for a pint. No, you won't. So that's my PSA. But obviously it's not ideal. I mean, I don't think any Scottish Cup quarterfinal should be on a Monday night, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Just as a point of principle, I think part of the reasons, with the Six Nations being on, that plays its part in it as well, and obviously we've got the other games as well. But I mean, you'd much prefer to see this played on, either on Saturday or Sunday, or failing that, even the Friday night would be a bit better. But Monday night, people have got work in the morning, they've got stuff to do, they've got kids to look after. It's not, and like you say, it's a long journey to make. So if I was, I'd be disappointed that that's when it's going ahead. But there's not much you can do about it, is there? Apart from whinge, just have a wee whinge. Yeah,
I would absolutely whinge my face off. I completely agree with you that a Scottish Cup quarter-final should not be played on a Monday night, especially it's just another way to annoy fans. We're going to obviously talk a wee bit about VAR, but it's just not fan friendly at all. And I think Friday night you can get away with because it lends itself more to someone taking a half day. You've got the Saturday off the next day, so it's not as stressful or pressing a situation where you go like, okay, I need to get a train to Glasgow and then a train to Greenock and go to get back late. But it's fine. Friday night, you make a night of it, you make a day of it. Monday, you can't really do that. You work on the Tuesday, or if you have to do that, you're essentially taking potentially 1.5 days off work to do that. So it's frustrating. I assumed that it was going to be a Friday night. Morton obviously playing on the Tuesday, but Tuesday to Friday is absolutely there's no reason why. That's just like playing Thursday Sunday, for example, when you're in Europe, or Wednesday Saturday. So It's not a situation which you think, oh, that's why it really should be moved to the Monday. And then any time Six Nations, Scottish football are bending over backwards to accommodate Six Nations, that's when you should just the game's gone in that instance. So yeah, it's really frustrating. And you look at Viaplay have got the double header on this Sunday. I know Scotland are playing Italy on the Saturday, where they could have a Saturday evening kickoff or just a Friday evening kickoff. It's just it's so very, very frustrating. Obviously, we will be there for work, so you're not less likely like making a day of it the way that away fans did. But if I was an away fan, I know a few of my mates are going that they're like an absolute still going, but it's just an absolute ball ache to get there. So yeah, it's just
particularly the game being on telly. So that's telly on a Monday night. Difficult place to go to in terms of just actually getting there, like traveling. That's quite a few incentives for I
exactly.
Think if anyone decided, actually I'm not going to bother, I'm just going to stay in tonight and watch on the telly, I don't think you should hold that against them.
Yeah, I know that. I think I think Hearts will still sell at their allocation, because I think when they played Motherwell in the previous round, which was a Friday evening game at Capello, Morton put out a big kind of a statement explanation why the capacity was reduced just because of TV, because of segregation. So there will be, I still think with the tickets Hearts will get, they'll sell out no problem, because you asked about when the last time Hearts played Morton. Played them twice in the championship season, but that was behind closed doors. So the last time Hearts fans were able to go to Capello for a competitive fixture was 1987. So it's a ground that a lot of fans will be looking at and thinking, I can tick that off. So I think that will still maybe, for example, if it was, I don't know, you're playing away to who Hearts played, like Inverness on a Monday night. It's so much easier for fans to just go, you know what, I've been there before. Whereas Capello, at least you're like, well, it's a new ground, not been there for a while. So I still think Hearts will sell out no problem. But again, it's people will be doing it with a bit of hesitation, a bit of reluctance, which shouldn't be the case.
What I will say though is to anyone who is on the fence, who is dithering, who's not sure, I will say that you can get an absolutely fantastic doner kebab pie at Capello.
Oh.
So I would, if anyone's unsure, if anyone's going, which way to go, there's a wee bit of advice for you. Hopefully that shoves you over the edge and gets you along.
And yeah, exactly. We can compare it to the kebab pies at Tynecastle, which are excellent. Also, we won't finish off here, but I've got one wee bit of announcement after this. But VAR, it was released, I think it was yesterday, the SFA released the findings off their independent VAR panel, or whatever it's called, around the latest round of fixtures. So in the first round of fixtures, they found that the panel deemed that there was 3 mistakes. In the latest round, there was 13 mistakes. Now, 4 of them involving Hearts. Conveniently, I know that this sounds very convenient, that the one that was in favour of Hearts, I can't even remember it. Benny's tackle against Aberdeen, where he should have been sent off. I can't really remember it, but I certainly vividly remember the other 3 which went against Hearts, which were the Liam Boyce penalty or non-penalty at Motherwell, the Alan Forrest booking at home to Ross County for an apparent dive, and then the last one was... What was
it? Was Oda at Rugby Park.
Of course, yeah. Sorry, Will Dennis's wild challenge on Oda. So yeah, I wasn't surprised to see these 3 brought up as mistakes. And I think probably the most galling aspect of it was just Crawford Allen coming out after. I don't know if you've seen the clip on BBC where he's talking about how like the accuracy, and it's gone from referees' decisions, I think it was 89%, and then it's brought it up to, I think it was maybe 97% he quoted. I just think, so yeah, 8%, like an 8% increase, but you just wonder, with the mistakes that are still happening, plus the inconvenience it has on games, and like I was watching the Motherwell Aberdeen game of the weekend, midweek, and the amount of stoppages between the goals as they check the goals, it just feels like it's getting worse rather than better. And that's always, I thought, always going to be the case, that people say, I just need time to bed in or get used to it. But there's been having problems in the biggest leagues around the world where they have more cameras and more professional referees. But and I just don't understand how he thought we were going to get it right, and it was going to be great. So yeah, I think the findings just hammer home. Just like I just don't think it's worth it.
Oh yeah, that's that's my take on it as well. So okay, you can get that number, you can bump that number up from 89% to 97%. Like very good, but is that worth it?
Yeah,
exactly. Again, for all the delays, all the stoppages, is that worth it for 8% better results? Some people will say, yeah. Crawford Allen, Guru thinks, yeah. I disagree. Again, the thing though about that little clip that was doing the rounds that frustrated me was more the fact that when at one point he was speaking about it, he's like, oh yes, it's gone up. We're getting 97% right. So why would anyone have any problem with that? And it's like that's incredibly disingenuous.
Yes.
It's like no one's against it because it gets more decisions right. That's not why people are against it. They're against it because of the interruption of play, the experience of the match going fan, and to just pretend that anyone who's got those kind of grievances is kind of like, you'd have to be mad to be against that. Come on. I thought that was a bit disingenuous. I didn't like that. But I will say as well, again, I'll be devil's advocate here, and I will say that referees, incredibly difficult job. Don't know why particularly in Scotland, don't know why anyone would do it. So it's for all the referees out there that are doing a good job, and thank you. But yeah, get VAR in the bin, get rid of it.
Yeah, I just feel I think I am now reached some point where like I'm mature enough just to accept decisions and just go right. Bad decisions happen. I mean, when I was younger, for example, you might not remember this, but 2005 when Kyriakos won, I think it was Kyriakos won a penalty at Tynecastle when Michaelinas barged into the linesman. You remember just like coming away from the match, just absolutely raging, and there'll be occasions when that still happens if there wasn't VAR. But I just think with VAR, it's just putting more pressure on referees, and it's making people even more frustrated and angry with referees. And you just wonder if they take away VAR, then maybe, I think this is a lot to ask, that fans as a whole would be more appreciative or respectful to referees. I don't think that's going to be the case because it requires everyone to kind of grow up. I'm talking about
that'll never happen.
Us as fans, yeah, I know. Us as fans, pundits, players, journalists, managers, etc., etc. It's a lot to ask, but yeah, it's just frustrating. And like you, I think you nailed on the head with the worst part of that clip about Crawford Allen was just that it just seems with himself and the SFA and the clubs, they just have never looked at it from a fan's point of view.
No, they've never asked the fans about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I think when they first voted to me, I think Motherwell didn't they?
Yeah, so Motherwell reached out, and a prominent club which are fan owned, Heart of Midlothian Football Club, didn't, which frustrates me. Especially that really frustrates me that the club didn't. But yeah, like I said, it was Motherwell that only did it. Morton voted against it, but I don't actually think they reached out to the fans. So yeah, it's incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, get rid of it.
Now, what isn't frustrating is this next bit of news, and I think will be released on social media later on tonight when I get my head out of my bottom. But I can confirm that we now have an app for Hearts Standard. You can download it from Google Store and the App Store on Apple. And yeah, it's really pleased with it. I think it's really, really good, and it's very user friendly, and just reading or looking at it, it just makes articles, just makes it easier to read and easier to follow. And I think the people behind it have done an absolute cracking job. And I think it will hopefully take it to your enjoyment of the Heart Standard to another level, especially if you enjoy reading on your phone, etc., etc.
Yeah, exactly. Just it's that way of, we know that if people are coming to the website, you need to pull up your phone, pull up your browser, type in the name. It doesn't sound like much, but it's just now you just pull out your phone, just click the button. There you go, you're there. You'll get everything there. Again, I was playing about it as well. Yeah, it's looking great. Really simple to use. Really, and yeah, I'm just big fan of it. Big fan of it. You're looking forward to seeing people using it.
And I think I'm just trying to get up an article where we've got like StatsBomb data, and it's clearer. So if you're on your phone, if you're reading on just a browser website or on the laptop. I think it's a lot easier to make sense of like the graphics, the numbers and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really pleased with it, and be sure to just if you subscribed, you'll just need to download it and log in. If you have not subscribed yet, but are taken by the app, then subscribe via the website and then download the app and get it on your phone. And yeah, it's hopefully makes your enjoyment of Heart Standard even better. Now, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, James. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Continue to read, subscribe, and enjoy our output. We'll be back maybe after the game tomorrow for a quick 10-minute video. If not that, then Monday to review the win over Motherwell. Oh, the game over Motherwell. I've just jinxed it there, saying the win over Motherwell. Hopefully the 3 points over Motherwell to look back on. So yes, stop talking now. Goodbye.
Bye.